Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Gazina Hussein, and I'm here on behalf of Apps Network to begin the program. So if we can have Brother Muhammad come and recite Quran for 10 minutes, and then we will have Georgia State University conduct the rest of the program.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May Allah accept your fasting and prayers. We are at the last Friday of the holy month of Ramadan. So we'll be reciting Surah Jum'ah onward for 10 minutes from Juz 28 of Holy Quran. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا جاءك المنافقون قالوا نشهد إنك لرسول الله والله يعلم إنك لرسوله والله يشهد إن المنافقين لكاذبون. اتخذوا أيمانهم جنة فصدوا عن سبيل الله إنهم ساء ما كانوا يعملون ذلك بأنهم آمنوا ثم كفروا فطبع على قلوبهم فهم لا يفقهون وإذا رأيتهم تعجبك أجسامهم وإن يقولوا تسمع لقولهم كأنهم خشب مسندة يحسبون كل صيحة عليهم هم العدو فاحذرهم قاتلهم الله أنى يؤفكون وإذا قيل لهم تعالوا يستغفر لكم رسول الله لووا رؤوسهم ورأيتهم يصدون وهم مستكبرون سواء عليهم أستغفرت لهم أم لم تستغفر لهم لن يغفر الله لهم إن الله لا يهدي القوم الفاسقين هم الذين يقولون لا تنفقوا على من عند رسول الله حتى ينفضوا ولله خزائن السماوات والأرض ولكن المنافقين لا يفقهون يقولون لئن رجعنا إلى المدينة ليخرجن الأعز منها الأذل ولله العزة ولرسوله وللمؤمنين ولكن المنافقين لا يعلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله ومن يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون وأنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت فيقول رب لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصدق وأكن من الصالحين ولن يؤخر الله نفسا إذا جاء أجلها والله خبير بما تعملون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum. We are Georgia State University's Untitled Chapter, and for today's session, we are doing a presentation on reaffirming Islamic beliefs in a new light. We'll be looking into the fundamentals of Tawheed and Adalah and kind of looking at it from a new perspective.
Tawheed. Why Tawheed is essential to our faith. Do we practice Tawheed out of fear or desire? You'll understand the concept of Adalah and why Adalah is essential to our faith. You'll also learn the Christian views on Theodicy versus the Islamic views. And last but not least, how we can utilize the Quran to answer our doubts.
So firstly, we'll be looking at what is Tawheed. So Tawheed is the belief in the one and only God, Allah. We believe this, we state this when we say the kalima or the shahada, the first sentence being La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah. Tawheed is an innate attribute that Allah has instilled in us, and through other variables, certain individuals go astray by outside sources. So when you look into Tawheed, there are 7 stages. The first stage is Tawheed in ibadah, or worship in Allah. That is the idea of worshiping only to Allah, defying polytheism or idol worshiping. The second stage is Tawheed in understanding the attributes of Allah, or the sifat of Allah. So by this, you acknowledge the attributes as we know the 99 names of Allah and understand them. The third stage is Tawheed in acknowledging that no one can order or forbid but Allah. And we acknowledge this by knowing that all the orders are from Allah and He has the power to forbid us or order us. The fourth stage is knowing that Tawheed and acknowledging that no one can benefit or deprive but Allah. This is acknowledging that Allah has the power to bestow mercies upon us and He has the power to take away these mercies or not give us certain things. The fifth is Tawheed in trusting only Allah. This is when you trust Allah's judgment for all your affairs and trust Him with all your worries and rely on Allah solely. The sixth stage is Tawheed in doing deeds for the sake of Allah, Tawheed in your a'mal. So this is done by doing deeds only for the sake of Allah and no one else. This is staying away from the idea of Riya and Suma. Riya is the idea where you do a certain action or a certain deed to show to others that you are doing this deed. The idea of Suma is when you do something so that someone else who's watching you can go and boast about it to someone else. These two ideas are contradicted when you do deeds for the sake of Allah. And lastly, the highest stage of Tawheed is when you practice Tawheed by total devotion to only Allah. This is when you devote everything at your disposal for the cause of Allah and solely for Allah. And we can see this from the teachings of the Ahlul-Bayt and the Prophet. So why do we believe in Tawheed? Tawheed is the only just way we can worship Allah. Through the 99 names, we know that there are three main ideas from those 99 names. The idea that Allah is Hayy, ever living. The idea that He's Alim, all knowledgeable, and the idea that He's Qadir, all powerful. From these 3 ideas are the 99 names derived. We strive for the singularity and perfection that can be only achieved through Tawheed. Imam Musa Qadim alayhi salam was questioned about this, and he proposed 3 scenarios. The first idea is that you created yourself. This will lead to the suggestion that there's a prior version of you that created you, which isn't possible. The second proposal was that you rose from non-existence. This idea has been debunked in several scientific realms where the idea that something can't come from nothing. So the only possibility by process of elimination is that someone or something else created you. And that is our basic understanding of Tawheed. In the first sermon of Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Ali alayhi salam stated, the foremost in religion is the acknowledgement of Him. The perfection of acknowledging Him is to testify Him. The perfection of testifying Him is to believe in His oneness. So this encapsulates the idea of Tawheed. So next we will look at, do we practice Tawheed out of fear or out of desire? After learning what Tawheed is and its different stages, we can implement the practice of Tawheed. Do we implement the practice of Tawheed by the urge of desire or the consequences of not worshiping Him? So looking back at the stages of Tawheed, the first 4 stages of Tawheed are practiced by simply recognizing the attributes of Allah and completing the obligations set forth to us by our Prophet and Imams. The first 3 being in worship, in acknowledging the attributes, and acknowledging that no one can order or forbid us except Allah, and no one can benefit or deprive us from Allah. These 4 stages are accomplished by just knowing the simple magnitude of Allah and just praying to Him. The last 3 stages are a little harder to reach because they require deeper understanding and appreciation of Allah's unity and Tawheed. The last 3 stages can be practiced simultaneously when you understand Adalah.
All right, so now we're gonna segue into our discussion of Adalah. So it's not a new concept to anyone, I hope, that Adl means justice in Arabic, and that the opposite of Adl is Dhulm. So taking a more literal definition of this, Adl means to keep everything in its rightful place, and Dhulm means to take something out of its rightful place. It's also mentioned in Nahj al-Balagha that justice is placing everything in its appropriate place. So a very relevant example for today, Palestine. Those people, their rightful place to be in a home and to be in their homeland without any fear of, bombs dropping on them, whatever, it's taking it out of its rightful place. Therefore, it's considered a dhulm. So believing in the Adalah of Allah, or divine justice, as we all know, is part of our Usul ad-Din. But the question remains, why is our faith incomplete without this belief? Why couldn't we have just jumped from Tawheed to Nabuwah? Why did Allah place this specific category of Adalah in between these two things? So we're going to take a look further into this. All right. So the way I want to break this discussion down is we're going to look at a logical standpoint where we're going to prove Allah's justice and why we believe in it. And then we're going to look at a faith-based standpoint and, trying to understand why we believe in Allah's justice. So to start, when we claim to believe in Allah, it also means that you believe that Allah is omnipotent, so he's all strong, all powerful. You believe that he's omniscient, so he's all aware, and that he's perfect. So those are new concepts. But when we take a look at this, we see that injustice is an imperfection, and so it cannot be attributed to Allah. Now, why is this the case? Why is injustice considered an imperfection? So if we take a look at the roots of injustice, we see that it's done due to a lack of wisdom. So let's take an example. For instance, if I walk outside and I step on an ant, I didn't know that the ant was there, but hence I still committed an injustice. I took an innocent animal's life away. Allah, who has all the knowledge of the world, has all the wisdom of the world, logically, there is no way for him to commit an injustice when he knows everything. Now, injustice is also stemmed through a lack of power. Allah being all powerful, there's no reason for him to commit an injustice in order for him to gain power since he owns everything. And when you own everything, you don't have a motive to be unjust. And that brings us to our third, greed. We can see all over the world, people commit acts of injustice in order to gain something. They need something that they don't have. Allah has everything. Everything is at his disposal. He owns everything. So looking at it logically, he cannot commit an act of injustice when he owns everything, he is all powerful, and he has all of the wisdom. So it follows that after a discussion about Tawheed, that in order for our belief in Allah to be complete, we must also believe in his justice. Now, let's take a look at a faith-based view. As we all know that in Shia Islam, we believe in accountability of actions and we believe in free will. And according to Nahj al-Balagha, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam has actually rejected this notion of predestination. And I'm going to read the specific sermon to you guys so you guys can hear it from the man himself. So he says, the theory of compulsion, predestination, or predetermination of fate is a satanic insinuation and a doctrine of faith amongst enemies of God. On the contrary, God has ordained man to obey his commands and has given him freedom of will and action. He is at full liberty to obey his commands or to disobey. So why am I bringing this up? So the reason being is that Allah, through his justice, is that in order for punishment and reward to be just, he must have given us free will. If we didn't have free will, then it wouldn't be just of him to give us punishment and reward, since everything would have been in his control anyway. So looking at this in a different light, we see that there are people who are suffering from the day that they're born till the day they die. And it just seems like nothing is gonna ever get better for them. But when you have this faith that Allah is just, then you can live your life and you have this hope that at the end of the day, in the akhirah, my eternal reward is going to lie with him, and the eternal punishment of those oppressors who caused their suffering will also get and reap their punishment. So that's why it's really important that if you don't even believe in Allah's justice, then life doesn't even become worth living because everything seems hopeless. And that's one of the biggest sins, is losing hope in Islam.
Okay, so now we'll be moving on to Theodicy, not the Odyssey. Anyway, so by definition, it is the defense of God's goodness and omnipotence in view of the existence of evil. In other words, it's the answer to the question of why God permits evil. There are two prominent theories based on Christian views regarding Theodicy. The first one is by Elie Wiesel, who was a survivor of the Holocaust and a famous writer for his works reflecting his experiences as a Jewish prisoner in the concentration camps. He proposes a suffering God type of theory. So in his theory, he invokes a sense of kinship with God, to instill a sense of God's love and God being a willing co-sufferer with us. What he means by this is that when innocent people are suffering, how can God remain idle and impassible? If God is a loving and compassionate God, surely he must not only be aware of human suffering, but he must also be an active victim of such suffering. John Hicks, and then in the second theory, John Hicks is a famous religion philosopher and theologian. He's known for his soul-making theory, in which he states that God permits but does not desire evil. So a perfectly loving God can and will use evil for his good purposes, including our moral strength and spiritual growth. But as an answer to the problem of evil, we must look somewhere else. If there's no evil in the world, there would be no reason to do or be good. Evil plays as a motivator because when most people suffer as a result of evil, they learn from it and avoid repeating those acts so they don't have to suffer again, which in turn guides them to perform the good deeds instead. So how does theodicy play a role in Islam? Similar to how there are two main sects in Islam, there are also two main theodicy theories. The first one, Mu'tazila, adopted by the Shia, proposes that we have free will and the evil that we see today is a consequence of our own actions and not the will of God. It emphasizes how God is just so that any act that God carries out and commands will also be just. Therefore, he can do no wrong. If humans didn't have free will, it would be unjust to reward or punish them for their actions. In the opposing theory, Ash'ari, adopted by the Sunnis, while it does accept that humans possess free will, or more accurately, freedom of intention, it attests that humans have no power to create anything. It emphasizes how God is all-powerful and all the good and all the evil in the world is what God has commanded and forbidden. It suggests that humans aren't capable of fully understanding God and his attributes.
So now we'll be looking into the Quran to prove our points. So the concept of Tawheed has been mentioned in the Quran in many verses. The first verse mentioned here is from Surah Anbiya, verse 86. The highlighted points show that no God except you is identifying the concept of Tawheed. And the latter point is unjust to myself. This is also emphasizing the point of Adalah. Surah Ikhlas, the 112th surah in the Quran, is a best example of showing the meaning of Tawheed. In each ayat, it kind of gets at the idea of Tawheed, such as in the first one, it mentions that Allah is one. In the third ayah, it explains that neither is Allah beget or born. And in the last one, it shows that there is no one equivalent to Allah. And that is also getting at the idea of Adalah. And in Surah Nisa, verse 48, it also is getting at the idea of Tawheed and Adalah altogether, where it's showing that Allah does not forgive association with him, so there aren't any partners that are to be associated with Allah. And if one does that, they're taking away Adalah from the concept of Tawheed, attributing it to God.
All right. So now we're going to look at the verses of the Quran that address this concept of injustice and Allah's justice. So if you guys take a look, I know there are a bunch of verses on the screen right now, but if you just take a look at the bolded parts of each verse, there is this common theme that's been tied into each verse where Allah hones in on this point that we are the cause of the suffering that happens in this world. You know, Allah says, and your Lord is not unjust to anyone. They wrong themselves. Say, it is from your own selves. He constantly reminds us that, hey, listen, man, I gave you all the tools. You know, I gave you all free will. If there's suffering that's occurring in this world, it's because of the consequences of your own actions. Likewise, the solutions to those problems are also in our hands. Yes, we ask Allah to help us in attaining the solutions because sometimes it's very hard to reverse the consequences of our actions. We can see this in Yemen. We all have the authority, this entire globe has the authority to make sure that every Yemeni is fed every single day. But for some reason, they're still hungry every single day. We have the solutions, we just don't utilize it. And then we go on and play the blame game that, oh my God, this world is evil, even though we pretty much did this to ourselves.
Here are the links to the sources we use. So if you'd like to access the sources or have any questions about this presentation, please email us at the email on the screen.
So you guys can take, a few minutes or whatever to note that email down, or if you want later on, ask us in the chat. But now,
we're going to be closing out this presentation with a game of Kahoots, and the winners get prizes. So I hope you guys paid attention, because if you didn't, I'm sure it'll show.
and also please be sure to stay after the Kahoot is over so that you guys can take the poll that they have at the end of each session. But with that, I will start the Kahoot here. So if you guys have a separate device, or if you want to do this on your laptop, it'd be a little bit harder. If you have a phone, it'd be easier to play. But I'm going to start this Kahoot, and a code is going to appear on your screen. And you're going to go on kahoot.it, kahoot.it, and put that code in. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to do that. I'll give you guys another 3 minutes to try to enter into the game. All right, I'll give you guys 1 more minute and then we're gonna start the game, okay? There are a few more participants in the group, so I wanna make sure they get the chance. So exactly at 10:30, we will start, okay? All right, I'm gonna start the game. Last call, anyone wanna come in? All right, here we go. John Hicks's theory states that humans are responsible for stopping evil. True or false? All right, the answer is false. It was actually the weasel guy. He was the one who stated that, not John Hicks. All right. So we got Hassan in the top. All right, y'all got this. Which word does not describe God? All right, this was an easy question. Omnivore. That's the one that does not describe Allah. Let's see. Sahil's in the top. Then we got Hassan. Then we got her. So, got this. Let's do this, guys. What is commemorated on the last Friday of Ramadan? This is a question. Yom al-Quds, so that's today. Started by Ayatollah Khomeini, in case you guys didn't know. All right, we got her at the top, then we got Bisma, then we got Insia. Let's do this. How do you fulfill the first 4 stages of Tawheed? All right, fulfill your Islamic obligations. Those are for the first 4 stages. All right, we got Bisma at the top, then we got her, and then we got Insia. Good job, guys. How many stages of Tawheed are there? All right, 7. There are 7 stages of Tawheed. All right, Bisma's killing it. Then we got Sahil, then we got Zahra. This is a multi-select, so there are multiple choices here.
So if you select both of them, then you get it fully right.
All right, so it's the innate sense possessed by all humans and the alternate name of Surah Al-Ikhlas, also known as Surah Tawheed. All right, Sahil's at the top, then we got Insia, then we got Bisma. It's like a back and forth between these people. Which ayah states, whatever good reaches you is from Allah, but whatever evil befalls you is from yourself? Surah Nisa, ayah 79. This was kind of tricky, but I'm glad 3 people got it right. All right, so Sahil's still at the top, then Insia, then Bisma. All right, who created the soul-making theory? John Hick. Okay, good. A lot of y'all got that right. Good to know. Let's see. We got Sahil still at the top, Insia, and Bisma. What is dhulm? It is injustice. That was an easy one. Good to know. A lot of y'all got that right. All right, Sahil really killing it at the top, then Insia and Bisma again. All of these comprise the Mu'tazila school of theology except all right, evil exists due to God's decree. That is what we reject. So that is the exception to all of this. All right, Sahil still at the top and Insia, and now we got Reza here. That's good. All right, last question, y'all. Theodicy is? It is the explanation of evil. It is not the explanation of God. The explanation of why evil exists. All right, let's see who won. Third place, we got Insia. And then second, we got Bisma. First, we have, I wonder who? Sahil. All right, congratulations, y'all. So, what I'd like y'all to do now is in the chat, if you guys could write your emails so that I can send y'all your Amazon gift card codes. It's an online thing, you know, social distancing. So I'll send y'all your codes and I'll note your email from the chat. So please share your email in the chat. And if you guys could, please stay to rate for, you know, for the poll. And I'm going to start that poll now.
And email us if you guys would like a copy of the presentation with the hyperlinks attached.
If you guys could all vote now on the poll, that would help us. Anyone, I'm gonna end the poll in like a minute or two. And it's an anonymous poll, so don't worry, we don't know who's saying what. So you guys can be honest. It helps us with feedback. All right, I am gonna go ahead and end this poll. So I think that concludes our presentation. Thank you all for joining. Really
So the presentation will also be available on the APTA Network's website if you guys want to access it from there.
All right, and that's it. You guys can leave. You're not gonna force you to stay.